I don't take the cross down for no one. Do you understand, Sweden? I don't take the cross down for no one. If people come into my country as refugees, they will adhere to the Christian rules of that nation. I don't change, they need to change. Otherwise, they pack themselves and leave.
He's leading a new bill that would reverse key portions of the Hart-Sellers Act. That's the 1965 Immigration Act. It would shift it away from these family sponsorships, family reunification, and back toward answering the essential question. When you come to America, not only do you want to be an American, but do you love America? Now joining me is Congressman from Tennessee, Republican Andy Ogles. Congressman, it's great to have you on the program. I've seen a lot of what you've been talking about, familiar with your proposed bill. I think it's entitled the Assimilation Act. Tell me why this has been so important to you. This is a cause that you almost single-handedly have been fighting. Why?
Someone picked Texas to test whether America would bend. They picked wrong. Not because Texas is loud about it, not because Texas talks tough on camera, but because when a Dubai-based company quietly tried to build a city inside Kaufman County designed to house 20,000 foreign nationals under Islamic governance, Texas didn't call a press conference. It called an attorney general, and the attorney general went to work. Stay with me.
Well, I mean, just look at our communities, and one of the things in particular, I mean, obviously we see it here at home, but we can look to Europe to see what's coming down the pike, what's on the horizon. So you can look at London, you can look at Paris, you can look at Rome, where in Rome, roughly 70 to 80% of sex crimes are illegals. Again, when you look at Paris and you look at London, the same types of 50 to 60% of sex crimes are illegals or these migrants. And so now we've got to get serious. Because like you said, we've had these terrorist attacks. You had the shooting in Virginia, the shooting in Texas, you had the attempted bombing in New York, you had the car ramming in Michigan.
Because the full story of what happened in Kaufman County is not what the headline made it sound like. The project is dead. But what it revealed about who is paying attention and who is not is something every American needs to see clearly. Let's start with what they actually tried to build. A company with roots in Dubai, that is the United Arab Emirates, quietly acquired land in rural Kaufman County, Texas. Not a subdivision, not a housing development, a city designed to house up to 20,000 people. Residents in the county started calling it what it looked like, a Sharia city. Sharia is not just a religious practice. It is a comprehensive legal code. It governs criminal punishment. It governs family law. It dictates what people can wear, who they can marry, and what happens when they disagree with the rules. And the plan was to plant that legal framework on sovereign American soil in rural Texas, backed by foreign money, with zero accountability to the people who actually live there. Here's the part that never made the national news. The people of Kaufman County found out, and they did not quietly accept it. Parents flooded school board meetings. They showed up organized, documented, and angry. Not the performative anger of a social media post. The kind of anger that comes from reading the actual source material and then standing up in front of elected officials and laying it out point by point. These were mothers and fathers who did their homework and then showed up ready to be heard. And what they said in those meetings stopped the room cold.
Maim and crucify the infidels if they criticize Islam. Terrorize and behead those who believe in scriptures other than the Quran. Muslims must muster all weapons to terrorize the infidels. The unbelievers are stupid. Urge the Muslims to fight them. Whenever opportunity arises, kill the infidels wherever you catch them. Make war on infidels living in your neighborhood. Do not hanker for peace with infidels. Behead them when you catch them. Reminds me of what that kid just told you. I've just brought the receipts. Support for Islam is treason. Treason is defined in Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution as adhering to the enemies of the United States.
One citizen stood up and asked the officials directly, "Is your allegiance to America and the Constitution or somewhere else?" She didn't ask it softly. She cited Article 3, Section 3 of the United States Constitution, the clause that defines treason as adhering to the enemies of this country, and she asked elected officials to answer the question on the record. That is not a fringe moment. That is a community that read the document and decided to use it. And then Ken Paxton moved.
If I was a Muslim, I'd say thank you. Thank you for promoting Islam, for allowing the indoctrination of students and children. I would thank you for ignoring the many people here. They're just misinformed, right? But I'm not a Muslim. Here's why. Let me quote some verses from the Quran. Slay the unbeliever, wherever.
The Texas Attorney General launched a formal legal investigation the moment Kaufman County residents raised the alarm. His office sent legal demands directly to the developers, including the American arm of the Dubai-based company behind the project. No press conference theater. No carefully worded statement about the importance of due process and community dialogue. Legal firepower applied precisely at the right moment. The developers blinked. The project is finished. 20,000 foreign nationals are not moving into rural Texas under a governance structure that answers to Dubai and not to Kaufman County. That is what accountability looks like when someone in office actually uses their authority. But here is what the Kaufman County story is really telling you, because the city itself was just the symptom. The disease goes back 60 years.
All of these individuals hate America. They don't like who we are, what we believe in. They don't love this country. And quite frankly, this idea that you can come here, this chain migration, because look, annually under chain migration, this family migration, it's roughly 700,000 people. My bill will take that down to 50,000 people. So you actually have to have a reason to be here, and you actually have to be the immediate family, not some distant cousin, uncle, whatever. And so this is a pragmatic approach. And so before 1965, before Hart-Celler, we had a reasonable immigration program. After 1965, you've seen it be passed. Then you have this floodgate.
In the leadership race, are you certain that you will run for re-election in 2020? Yes. You are?
Yeah. Do you think the Texas... I mean, God willing.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly.
Senator, what does it cost? Inshallah. What?
In 1965, Congress rewrote America's immigration framework from the ground up. Before that rewrite, the system was built around a central question. Do you want to be an American? Do you love this country? The answer to that question shaped who came in and how many. After 1965, that question disappeared. The Hart-Celler Act shifted the entire framework toward chain migration, visa lotteries, and family sponsorship chains that stretch across continents to relatives most Americans have never met and never will. The downstream result is not abstract. It is Kaufman County. It is a foreign-backed company purchasing American land with the expectation that no one is paying close enough attention to stop it. It is 700,000 people per year entering under chain migration. An uncle here, a distant cousin there, a network of connections with no particular attachment to American history, American law, or the question of whether they actually want to be American at all. One congressman from Tennessee is trying to fix it. Republican Andy Ogles introduced the Assimilation Act, which would be the most sweeping overhaul of American immigration law since 1965. His bill cuts chain migration from 700,000 people per year down to 50,000. That is not a ban. That is a filter. It forces the question back to the center of the system. Why are you here? Are you actually here to become an American? Before 1965, that question was the whole point. After 1965, it vanished. This bill puts it back on the table, and the need for it goes beyond the numbers. Europe is not an abstraction anymore, it is a preview. Look at what has happened in London, Paris, and Rome, cities that did not ask those questions early enough, cities that prioritized accommodation over accountability and are now watching the results play out in crime statistics, parallel governance structures, and communities with no attachment to the culture that built those cities. Congressman Ogles pulled the actual numbers. Sex crime rates in those cities driven disproportionately by unvetted arrivals, not projections from a think tank, results already on the ground in countries that made the same choices America is being pressured to make right now. Texas looked at that preview and made a different decision. Now here is the moment in this story that nobody is talking about, and this is where it gets uncomfortable for a certain kind of politician. While Kaufman County parents were standing in community halls citing constitutional definitions of treason, while Ken Paxton was sending legal demands to a Dubai-backed developer, while Andy Ogles was introducing legislation to restore the integrity of the immigration system, a sitting United States Senator from Texas was asked the most basic question a reporter can ask. Will you run for re-election? Senator John Cornyn's answer, yeah, God willing, inshallah, on camera, to a reporter in Texas. You can argue about intent all day long. You can say it was a casual phrase, a slip. a moment of cultural color from a man who spent too long in Washington, but the optics are what they are. Texas parents are standing in school board meetings, holding copies of the Constitution, demanding their elected officials answer for their allegiances, and their senator is answering a re-election question with an Arabic phrase that belongs to a different faith tradition entirely. Trust is political capital. Cornyn spent some of his in the state where he can least afford to. The polls are not being kind to him about it. Ken Paxton, the man who just shut down a foreign-backed Sharia development in rural Texas, is running in the Republican Senate primary. The numbers coming out of that race should make every establishment Republican who thought they could keep one foot on each side of this debate very nervous. Paxton 53, Cornyn 37. That is not a close race. That is not a competitive primary. That is a blowout. Texas voters watched Paxton take on a Dubai-backed land grab and win. They watched their senator say "Inshallah" on camera while parents were citing Article 3 in school board meetings. And they are making a decision that the polling makes very clear. The people who assumed Texas would quietly absorb whatever foreign money and Washington politics sent their way have their answer now. It is written in black and white in a poll number that should echo across every state capital in the country. Here is what the Kaufman County story is ultimately about. It is not about one city that never got built. It is not about one attorney general, one congressman, or one senator with bad political instincts. It is about whether the institutions that are supposed to protect sovereign American soil and the people living on it are actually doing their jobs. For 60 years, the immigration system has been running without asking the essential question. The Kaufman County project was the logical endpoint of 60 years of not asking. A foreign-backed company looked at the American institutional landscape and calculated that nobody was paying close enough attention to stop them. They ran that calculation in Texas. They were wrong about Texas. They may be more wrong about America than they realize. The parents who showed up to those school board meetings with their research and their receipts understood something that a lot of people in comfortable offices have spent 60 years pretending isn't true. Sovereignty is not self-enforcing. Someone has to show up, read the documents, ask the questions out loud, and refuse to sit down until they get an answer. In Kaufman County, enough people did exactly that. And the government of one of the largest states in the country backed them up. 20,000 foreign nationals are not moving into Kaufman County. That land stays American. That is not a small win dressed up as something bigger. That is exactly what it looks like when a state decides to actually defend itself and discovers that the tools to do it were there the whole time, waiting for someone willing to use them.